think that we should start on our backs this morning. So get yourself situated. Maybe even a bolster or a pillow or something underneath your knees so that the lower back is supported. If your lower back is okay with stretching legs out, of course you can get them out there. Tuck the shoulder blades under, wiggle around, get yourself a cushion as far as the shoulders go. As much of your sacrum and lower back supported by the ground as possible. And then if it feels okay with you to close the eyes, I would definitely invite you to close the eyes. Yin yoga it truly is a meditative practice. We do much less moving, embracing much more stillness. Our awareness moves inward. I think all of us on this morning we've practiced yin together before, but just kind of gently reminding you what it entails. It's a practice wherein we stress our connective tissue, meaning that we don't warm the muscles, but instead we move into positions that stress our fascia or tendons. Ligaments, all those things that connect our muscles and our bones. And when they get that stress, what happens is blood just rushes to them. And that blood, of course, provides nourishment and rejuvenation for whatever part of the body we're after. If you like to visualize, which I'm sort of a nerd for that, I like to see my body in every single position that we find and try to understand exactly what my intent is. If you envision fascia or connective tissue as the white stuff that wraps around like all of our muscles. If any of you harvest game, you very much know what that looks like. And so it wraps around our muscles as a whole, but then it wraps around every single fiber within each muscle. When it's not nourished, it gets hard and it gets sticky rather than soft and slippery. One example that I readily call on in many people is the shoulders. If you roll your shoulders up, back, and down a couple times, some of us can do that and it just slides. You don't feel any sort of catches, you don't hear anything. And for those of us that have connective tissue that's not as healthy, ours might literally like catch and make all these grindy, gross noises. Of course, that can be from injury too. So that's what we're up to this morning. When we find these positions, we'll move into, our intent will be to move into them only to the point at which we first feel sensation. And for us to pause there and to observe the sensation. If the sensation passes, then you can move a little bit deeper But if it doesn't, you want to just stay where you're at observing it. We're noticing this morning where you're at, both physically and emotionally. Noticing where you're at cognitively and energetically. There's any chance you can get just a little more comfortable here on the earth, I'd invite you to adjust. Finding your breath, allowing the inhale to expand your belly, and the exhale to deflate your belly. Perhaps you decide to fill not just the belly, but the ribs, all the way up to the collarbone. Using that 3-part breath to quiet the mind, and to bring your awareness into the body. The last several weeks we've been working with awareness and ways that we can shift it from the head, from that brain that wants to think all the time, how we can shift it from there and down, practicing embodiment. Several of us vocalized a body part that needs our awareness this morning. For the rest of us, if there's anything physically that we're wishing to attend to, we'll note that. As a group, if there's anything non-physical, we'll just note that. If your legs are straight, go ahead and bend just one knee at a time so that you've got your feet on the floor. We're going to take a block if we have it, a pillow if we don't, maybe even our stacked hands or our arms, whatever we can get underneath the sacrum. So underneath that flat, bony part on it's more like the butt really than the hips. And you're just going to place that right underneath you. Good. Then one leg will gently stretch out. And your body is going to relax. One of the most glorious part about yin is that we're releasing and relaxing into these poses that we'll find. As you relax, you may become aware of the breath again. Feel the belly rise and fall. If your mind starts thinking, I would encourage you to lengthen the breath so that it's your belly, your ribs, and your collarbone. Or add that ocean sound to the breath, the Ujjayi breath, where we lift the glottis in the back of the throat. And that vibration just helps to quiet the mind, to soothe the nervous system, to help us be still here, both physically and mentally. You might notice sensation in the hips or the lower back. Knowing always there's a difference between sensation and pain. If you experience pain, that's our one rule in yoga, right? Is to get out of it if there's pain. Take just a couple more breaths. And then very mindfully, even slowly, you're going to bend that straight leg. Let the foot come to the earth. When you're ready, the opposite leg, lengthen out. You let that leg relax. Maybe it means like the foot rolls out and open. Your bent knee might fall out to the side a little. Your shoulders are soft. Your belly is soft. And your entire being just gets to drop into the stillness. The stillness where nothing in our external worlds matters right now. The dialogue that happens internally doesn't matter right now. Just your breath and the sensation, whether that's in your hip, your back, clear down in your leg. That has your awareness. Let's take just a couple more breaths. Mindfully, perhaps even slowly, you'll bend that knee. Let the foot find its place on the earth. We want to lift our butts up enough that we can get out whatever's underneath there. And then bring our sacrum and our lower back to the earth. And just rest. Let it connect. Let your thigh bones sink down in your hip sockets. Slowly walk your feet so that the soles of the feet can come together and your knees can drop out and open. And if that's too much, you've got your pillows or maybe blocks so that you can prop it underneath I put mine underneath my thighs. Just so that there is maybe minimum sensation right at first. And you have the opportunity to observe it. When or if it passes, then you can move the blocks out or the blankets out. Maybe your hands rest on the crest of the hip. Maybe they're down beside you. Either way, your awareness is on the breath. Dropping into the stillness. Yin yoga is very much like taking a rubber band, a fairly thick rubber band, and stretching it. Whereas our typical yoga practice, we warm everything up, and it's like one of those thin rubber bands that more easily just stretches. purposely creating stress in this connective tissue so that it can be nourished. Just a couple more breaths. Your knees then need to move back up slowly and mindfully so that the soles of your feet connect to the earth. If your feet aren't together and your knees aren't together, bring them there so that you can let your knees just gently rock back and forth so that the ground is pressing on the back of your hips, the lower back. That was a lot. Feels as though you can bring the knees in towards the chest, the hands to the knees, and rock that way. I invite you to do that. Just let the earth gently massage that lower back. You could also circle your knees a little bit. As you do, pay attention to the sensation. For my body, there's one little spot that when the ground hits it, it definitely sends sensation like all the way down my thigh, up my thigh, I guess. Areas that we're paying attention to. Letting our feet drop to the earth then. Let's let our hips shift to the left so that we can drop our knees to the right and gently roll over onto that right side. Take a couple of breaths. And then your hands and your arms are going to position themselves so they can help push you back to a seated position. And once in our seat, I think we're going to start with just like a staff pose, the legs straight, but in yin we call it caterpillar. And if the hamstrings are tight, I would certainly invite you to bring like a pillow or a folded blanket under your butt and lift your butt up a little bit so that it's like the sits bones are just on the very base of the blanket and they kind of rock off. And that'll just give you a little bit more freedom. Your blankets, your pillows, whatever you've got for your support then is going to come onto your lap because we're folding. And you might have quite a stack. I know I definitely do. Your legs get to flap out and open. They get to do whatever they want to do. Your hips are going to be your little hingers. And then if it's possible for you to find a place to rest your forehead, that's ideal. And then the hips hinge. Remember, it's point of first sensation. As your connective tissue is nourished and it gets a little stretchy, then you might be able to hinge a little deeper. But in this practice, we're just reminding ourselves, like, no rush. Almost as though we can allow ourselves to be with what is, not trying to force anything or make it more, make it less, make it different. Allowing the shoulders to relax. Your belly can relax. your butt, your thighs, awareness of breath. Maybe it's 3-part breath or ujjayi. Dropping into stillness. Oftentimes keeping our body still is the easy part. The mind is a whole another body. We're having a really hard time with the mind. We might add a mantra. It's something that you're saying over and over in your head. It can be as simple as I'm breathing in and I'm breathing out. We're about halfway into this. If there's any adjustment that your body would appreciate, go ahead and shift. Maybe you go a little deeper, you pull out a little bit. Shoulders completely relaxed. In particular for those shoulders, head just hanging, neck relaxed. Your head supported by your block or something, either way, neck relaxed. Couple more breaths. And then slowly sit yourself up. Your bolsters and everything to the side. And we're going to roll around and find all fours. Our knees underneath our hands under our shoulders. And then it is a couple cat cows, but intention is to keep the body cool. And so I would seriously consider going as slow as possible, not even worrying about connecting it with the breath, just letting your spine extend and then flex, which is our cat. Our cow is extension. The tailbone lifting, the collarbone rolling back, the throat opening. And then, of course, tailbone tucking, chin tucking. Super slow so you keep it cool. We don't want our muscles warm. Otherwise, they're going to be what stretches rather than the connective tissue. I hope that makes sense. Good. We'll meet back at all fours then. If you've got your blanket, you want to keep it handy, but we're going to roll. Let's actually go to down dog and then move our hands back towards our feet and find our forward fold that way. That'll be our next pose. So down dog. And then walking hands back to your feet, your knees bent, remember, so that you can rest the belly on the thighs, the chin tucked in. And you've got your forward fold. The torso is literally hanging, the shoulders are hanging. And breathe, your belly is expanding, pushing into your thighs. Remember, if mind is having a hard time dropping into stillness, add your mantra and breathing in and breathing out. If this becomes too much, you could bring your elbows to your knees and let those elbows kind of help hold your torso more upright. We are about halfway through, so whatever adjustment your body is requesting, maybe like straighten a little more, you do come halfway up, halfway up. A minute longer. Pretty intense, I think, for a lot of our bodies. To come out of this one, bring your hands to your legs, even your elbows to your knees. And I will come up just a little bit, kind of take a breath or two. And bring your hands to your thighs. Use them to push you up a little more. Almost like you're really making your way up just a little bit at a time. And finally, when you're up, those hips will just be shouting hallelujah. All right. So next one is we're gonna squat. And I think your blanket, if you've got your blanket, you might need your blanket. I have to roll mine so that my heels are gonna have a place to rest. Because when I squat, my I don't know if it's my Achilles tendons, whatever it is, it's not long enough to let my heels stay anchored to the earth. And you want your feet, I'd say they're a little wider than your hips. And then you're just bringing your butt down and your hands, your arms, you can have them wherever you want. Yeah, and your blanket, roll it as much as you need to so that your heels have that anchor. Whenever you get there, elbows can just rest on knees if you want, chin on hands or chin tucked. And we typically stay in these places like 3 minutes. I'll kind of watch us and see how we do as far as 3 minutes. Note if at any point you need to get out, you're going to listen to your body and you're going to move out. I see that Linda Rebish, and I can't tell if Judy did it too, but they've made a great adjustment. They're on their back bodies and their knees are up and in so that their body is better supported. Almost like, I guess, almost like a child's, not a child's pose, a happy baby. So stillness, drop it in your body still. That mind wants to move, it wants to think. And yes, there's always a time and place for that. But here on our mats, we're shifting awareness from our head into our bodies. Maybe it's the breath we connect with, maybe it's the hips. Maybe that's challenging, and so you add a mantra. Your weight in the heels. Your pelvic floor, your belly soft. About 30 seconds. left. To come out of this one, you might drop your hands towards the earth. Shift your weight forward and let your knees drop. Step forward with your hands a little, just so you can come to all fours. And your leg stretches out for a sec. Hip open and see the other side. We're tucking toes, bringing it back to down dog. And we're not pedaling feet, right? Because we don't want the back of our legs, we don't want those muscles to warm up. So just walk your hands back to your feet. Grab your blanket this time. We're coming up for a sec. Nice and slow, probably, as those hips unhinge. Ugh. And then our blanket is going to be rolled a little bit. And it's forward fold again, but with our blanket right in the crease of our hips. And it's gonna alleviate some of the hinging, but it's also gonna press into our guts and work to stimulate digestion. So, as much or as little of the roll as you want, your knees are still gonna bend in order to let your forward fold occur. When you're down here, that blanket is pressing into your belly. It's right up just as tight as you can get it in the crease of the hip. Your arms are gonna drop, your chin is gonna tuck, and you're back at your forward fold. There, breath. Shoulders soft. Adjusting if there's any adjustment desired. Let's do just a few more breaths. Coming out of this one the same way we did the other, we want to bring probably elbows to the knees. Pause there for a breath or two. Hands to the thighs and slowly walking ourselves up so that we can unhinge those hips. Drop your blanket down. And then maybe those feet do get just a tiny bit wider than the hips so that you can just either circle the hips or you could swing side to side with the shoulders, just releasing a little. When you're ready, feet back under our hips. Bend your knees so you can hinge at the hips. Come to forward fold, but walk your hands forward and meet in down dog. And now we can pedal our feet. Get our hips high, get them back. You want to lift a leg to the ceiling, lift a leg. We actually have a couple minutes, so if you feel like more movement, if you want to do, you could do a couple vinyasas. You come down, do some cat cows. You connect it with breath so that you do let the body heat a little bit. If none of those options sound good, there could be a child's pose, which might be pretty lovely, which just would be knees down, butt back. So we're going to rest our forehead. I guess if you want that as a yin, make it so that the tension and the connective tissue is occurring. If you want it more letting yourself settle into that if that's where you're at. Take a few more breaths. If arms are around your legs or tucked in between you now, bring them forward. Mindfully moving up to tabletop, we just crawl forward on our mats enough that we can swing the feet to the side or roll over them. Meet on our butts, use our arms to help us lower to the earth. And then last part of nearly every yin practices is our spinal twist. And so I would ask you to check in with your spine actually before you do this, and see what you're feeling. Maybe you need to windshield wiper the knees a little or bring the knees into the chest. But there's different depths of twist, right? Like if we drop the knees to the side from a place where we're pulling them in towards our torso, that's gonna be quite an intense twist. If we drop our feet to the earth first and even step them away from our butt a little bit, when we let the knees drop to the side, that's not quite as an intense twist as the others. So I think I'm just encouraging you to check in with your spine and see what twist is more appropriate for you. And when you're ready, you're gonna go. It doesn't matter which direction you go first. The knees just drop though. Maybe you've got your pillow or your blanket or whatever to support you. Your shoulders will be soft. Your face soft. The body is still. Of course, your mind might chatter, might be remembering things you have to do today. And you just gently notice that. Remind yourself you can think soon, but that for now, your awareness is in the body. Maybe the breath that you are aware of, or you use the breath as a bridge and you drop down further, whether it's your shoulders, your heart, your spine, your hips, your knees. Couple more breaths. Breathe back to the middle, your top leg will your lead. Bottom one follows. I don't know what you heard. My computer keeps muting me, but you're going to decide what is appropriate for your spine as far as the depth of your twist, whether you pull those knees in to the torso first, or you connect them to the earth, the feet to the earth, and then let the knees drop. Whenever you get to that twist, you're dropping into the stillness. Yes, body though. Mind quieting. Several of us have some pretty significant things going on in life right now, and to quiet or even calm the mind a little bit. What's going on is super difficult. So just be gentle with yourself, be kind. Couple more breaths. And top knee is going to be your leader in order to get those knees back to the center. Maybe the knees come into the chest and you rock a little side to side. Maybe you circle with the knees. You just want to release that lower back, release the hips a little. Happy baby is a preference. You'll reach for the feet. As your feet push towards the ceiling, your arms pull towards the floor. Your knees, of course, stay bent. Working our way towards Shavasana. Considering our pillows as props for our knees. our blankets to wrap us up. This practice, this practice is tough. The stressing our connective tissue is very often not pleasant. And the slowness of this practice is often quite difficult if our minds are busy. As you stretch out here this morning, maybe you thank yourself for being here, for participating, even though it isn't maybe the most favorite practice. Here in this last position, to one more time drop into stillness. The body relax, and the mind. Maybe you're aware of breath, your bridge from mind to body. Maybe you utilize that mantra, or maybe you're just still. And you're enjoying that place where you drop in. Wherever your awareness is at, let's all bring it to breath. Lengthening the inhale, lengthening the exhale. Maybe even breathing out the mouth a couple of times. And then wiggling our fingers, wiggling our toes, moving our heads a little side to side. Eventually bending knees and shifting hips one way or another so that we can shift to the side body. Breath or two on the side body, and then the hands and the arms helping push you on up. When you've got your seat, your eyes will again close. And one last time, you'll drop into the stillness. Noticing the pause at the bottom of the breath, at the top of the breath. Just a moment of stillness before your body keeps breathing. With an inhale, we'll bring the palms together. The thumbs at the heart, bow the chin towards the chest. The energy or spirit in me, it honors the energy, the spirit in you. Namaste.